Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today. I'm Melissa Miller, host of The Chosen Heroes, and as always, it is an honor and a privilege to spend my Sunday afternoon with the beloved community. So we have a great guest today. The one that was scheduled to appear, we are doing a different date for her, but Jamie Rice is going to join me here today. And Jamie, I think y'all have heard me talk about her quite a few times on every episode. I co-host a bi-weekly teleconference with Jamie. The Poli-Si, the counterintelligence training. She's done the counterterrorism training guides and workshops in series. So you'll get access to all those previous workshops and the guides and how to access the videos today as when we bring her up to the stage. So as always, let's kick off the week with targeted justice news and review for this week.
If you need assistance with legal issues in the United States, contact us. There might be some resources outside of targeted justice that could help for a small fee. It is not free. Do you need help filing documents for FOIA requests or filing a lawsuit? Do you need help with demand letters to the U.S. government? Where do you file? What forms will you need? These are important questions you need to answer for yourself. If you are a targeted law-abiding citizen in Europe, Asia-Pacific, or outside of the United States, etc., and you need help filing documents or understanding what can be done in the United States, please contact us at tjustice2@proton.me.
The Central Intelligence Agency has been actively engaged in shaping the content of film and television, especially since it established an entertainment industry liaison program in the mid-1990s, violating the Smith-Mundt Act. The book, The CIA and Hollywood by Tricia Jenkins, delves into the agency's and its officers' involvement in the production of the agency, in the company of spies, Alias, The Recruit, The Sum of All Fears, Enemy of the State, Syriana, The Good Shepherd, and more. Her research reveals the significant influence that the CIA now wields in Hollywood and raises important and troubling questions about the ethics and legality of a government agency using popular media to manipulate its public image. Propaganda on U.S. civilians was a violation of the Smith-Mundt Act, but it was effectively repealed by crooked Obama in 2012. His legislation lifted bans on U.S.-funded propaganda meant for foreign audiences, allowing government and legacy media to collude.
Write your own ebook story and publish it for free. This is an ebook template you can use on draft2digital.com. It is free. It will publish to many ebook stores worldwide. It is free. You should download OpenOffice and GIMP to help with the proper formatting, which are also free.
Special thanks to the website zerohedge.com. The White House is currently seeking comments on medical devices and implants.
Do you get spam on your phone, texts, or email? Respond to the spam with this link.
Every Tuesday, Barack Obama, John Brennan, and other high-ranking officials would meet and create a hit list of people to assassinate that week. They would then execute the selected assassinations by drone, airstrike, tactical teams, or individual hitman, and then do it all over again the next week. Obama once said to his staff that he never thought that he'd be so good at killing. Wash, rinse, repeat. Obama has dropped the most bombs and has conducted the most targeted drone strikes, which have also killed civilians more than any other president in history. The TI program is not a kill list. It is a list for harassment and torture. Yes, we are aware that a small number are killed, but that is not the plan. If they wanted you dead, then you would already be dead. It's time to get over your fears and start fighting back. Join the Targeted Justice Digital Warriors.
Calling all digital warriors. Repost share, and like this video on every social media site that's out there. We always looking for some awesome people willing to volunteer their time. Let us know what special skills and unique talents you possess by shooting us an email to tjustice2@proton.me. In the subject line, type volunteer. Looking for more targeted justice content? We have several channels online, 100% free, on rumble.com. Appreciate what we do? We are accepting donations and they're all tax deductible. You can either hit this link to do a quick submission of payment or send us a check to the following mailing address. We are a nonprofit organization. We have several different items at our store, ranging from clothes, cups, and merchandise. Either get something for yourself or buy a nicer gift for that special someone by hitting this link.
Thanks for taking your time to watch this video. And God bless, and God bless, and God bless.
Sean always does such an amazing job as a volunteer for Targeted Justice and creating the videos. He helps me out tremendously. So as always, I want to give a shout out to him for all of his hard work and efforts that he does to help this community. I also want to give a shout out to Tranquility at tievents.org. I cannot express enough how community with those that understand what you're going through the most and having that connection, because we being, targeted the way that we are, the experience itself is so very isolating and rejective. So that's why it's so important to kind of plug in with those who know nothing like what anyone else on the outside would ever understand. And every day of the week, you have options for, plugging in to teleconferences, to podcasts and meetups, and you can, create your own as well. There have been new ones that have been recently created. And once I am aware of those, I do post those and share those details out on the X channel for the Chosen Heroes. All right, so up next is going to be Melody Hopkins as our guest. That is coming up next week. And Jamie and I will get into a little bit more of what the Beyond the Looking Glass, the Targeted Survivor Counterintelligence Training bi-weekly teleconferences is all about. And our next one will be on October 11th. It's hosted by Free Conference Call. So again, no matter where you are around the world, you can dial in. They do have global phone-in options for the meetup also. And please, I do appreciate and give a shout out to all of you who subscribe, follow, like, and share the content that I post along with the podcast. I appreciate you sharing, because that it may reach somebody who was looking for answers and they hear something or they read something and it resonates with them and it helps them in some way. So it's very important for us to continue to share the information out, to, cast that net a bit wider, to help others and to educate those that may not be aware of the targeting programs and what that entails. So Jamie, I can't say enough about her, but Jamie Rice is a trailblazing consciousness architect and the creator of the Sovereign Soul Blueprint, a revolutionary counterterrorism operations training guide rooted in the Science of Poli-Si, which she is the developer of Poli-Si, which is policing science, thought, and systems. It was specifically crafted for targeted individuals and targeted survivors. The self-governing active learning defense and response model empowers individuals to reclaim cognitive and energetic sovereignty against psychological, biodigital, and systemic targeting. Emerging from her own journey through relentless adversity, Jamie distilled the Poli-Si Reverse Voltage Formula, which is information, input, plus knowledge, output, minus polarity, which is distortions, that equals coherence, authenticity, into a non-dual somatic programming language that neutralizes manipulative signals, reverses trauma imprints, and restores authentic alignment across mind, body, and soul. The Sovereign Soul Blueprint integrates cutting-edge tools like the Mirror Protocol, a real-time distortion detection system that reflects external and internal manipulations back to their source, enabling survivors to identify and dismantle psychological and energetic intrusions. Through resonance mapping, Jamie teaches targeted survivors to navigate their biofield, pinpointing dissonance frequencies and recalibrating them to a 0-point coherence. The Mobius mind, a core component, unifies conscious, subconscious, and unconscious layers into a timeless, nonlinear framework, allowing survivors to process trauma, integrate shadow aspects, and operate as a sovereign architects of their own reality. As a reoccurring guest from the Chosen Heroes podcast and co-host of the Beyond the Looking Glass Targeted Survivor Counterintelligence Operations Training teleconference series, Jamie empowers warriors with practical applications of these tools, from constructing energetic firewalls to decoding biodigital meshes. Her work transformed victimhood into vigilant mastery. Her approach blends neuroscience, multidimensional physics, and ancient wisdom, offering TIs a battle-tested path to heal inner child wounds, to neutralize polarity, and forge an unassailable cryptographic mind. And in this podcast, Jamie will dive into the Sovereign Soul Blueprint, sharing how the Poli-Si Reverse Voltage Formula, Mirror Protocol, Resonance Mapping, and Mobius Mind equip targeted survivors to jam invasive signals, reclaim neural rights, and ignite the sovereign soul rebellion. So we want to, make sure that everybody is equipped with these tools that are necessary, and it's the kryptonite to this program. Because remember, our buy-in to the distortions that are fed to us is the success to the program. So without further ado, let's get Jamie up on the stage. Hi, Jamie. Thanks so much for joining in on last minute notice and being open to speak with us. I really felt that it was time to have you back on, and there's just been so much good that you have been creating and publishing out on your social media pages. And I have a screenshot up on the stage of Jamie's. The first one up in the right-hand corner is her X page, then her Substack, and then her Facebook. So thank you again, Jamie, for joining me today.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm a little nervous today, but it comes with the territory.
Yes, and there's just so much, good that's coming from the work. You're just like, you have, like, it's a portal open of, the light and the universe and God just revealing to you these teachings of how we can counter, maneuver these attacks that each of us, go through on a regular basis. And the root and the success and the movement of the needle all begin from the inner within. And I'm so glad that we can discuss that today. Can you just give us, the summary of, how did you come about creating, Poli-Si? I know that we've talked previously that you've been perfecting this, and you yourself have gone through this, and it was a 20-year journey that led you to these teachings.
Yeah, well, it started with an awakening that I had after reading a book that shifted my perception on judgment. So I started showing up based on some feedback that I had received from the book, which was basically showing up in the ever-present now moment without judgment, through the eyes of an innocent child, as if I was seeing everything for the first time. I began looking at resistance within myself and others and taking the time to decipher it. And I decided that I would forgive everything that caused resistance, but I started working through it. And I showed up through unconditional love, 4 postures: self-love, tough love, omni-love, and soft love. So in doing so, I had an awakening, and I didn't even know what an awakening was. So it was startling. And I started automatic writing and lucid dreaming, and I started seeing visions of myself in the future. And it was talking about I was going to create a course and create healing modalities for humanity. And I'm thinking, what? How is this even possible? Anyway, a 21 year now journey ensued on how to take full control over the mind, brain, heart, nervous system, and free will choice through non-duality. Basically, through the process, I developed a self-governing, active learning, defense and response model of thought through processed through a non-dual somatic program language. So the Poli-Si is the rebellion. It's a sovereign soul blueprint. It's a advanced encryption system and sophisticated neural network. So as time progressed, I started adding in new processes that I was learning to basically survive what I was going through. And I basically figured out how to operationalize consciousness. But it came through a lot of deep inner work, healing inner child timelines, integrating shadow aspects, working with my nervous system, fight, flight, fawn, freeze, recoding new biomarkers, drilling for the nerve, finding out where my baseline, was on everything. And really, I discovered that duality, we're in a dualistic realm. Duality is mind control and polarity is manipulation. So you will never solve a problem in polarity. It's just not possible because there's too many views. So that has to be collapsed down to a 0 point, which we have the ability to do through working problem solving formulas. So the reverse voltage formula basically treats everything as raw data and sensory input, and then knowledge, which is the output. That's your processed understanding. And then we reduce polarity, which are distortions. So the distortions within us, we have psychological blocks. For example, dissonance, disassociation, rumination, and those processes need to be worked through because that's the polarity. So energy is stored and trapped in our body, all of our unprocessed emotions, which wreaks havoc on the body. In fact, you probably can't see this, but I mapped out briefly unprocessed emotions, and it literally wreaks havoc on the body. So really, that's what we're dealing with here.
I want to show it again. I took off the slide, and maybe that will help. Yes, it's a map.
I'm really just showing the vastness that it creates, unprocessed emotions. We're looking at emotional instability, a chaotic mind, an imbalanced nervous system, sensory overload, overwhelm, powerlessness, contempt. We step into like avoidance behaviors, destructive coping mechanisms, and then hyperreactivity. So as targets, we are trapped below complexity, uncertainty, and vulnerability. And unless that's processed out, that energy has nowhere to go. It's just circulating in your body and creating more problems. That's why it's important that we become self-governing and actively learning. But the crux that the message today really is, so imagine yourself in a house of mirrors, and each face on each mirror is a symptom of the targeting experience. For example, one could be anger, resentment, frustration, humiliation, your government. So all of these mirrors are looking at us, okay? What happens when we simply flip the mirror and turn inward and deal with all of that through self-governing, active learning, and defending and responding? Basically, what happens is you return darkness for darkness. The mirror flips and turns on the sender. So that's really the crux of this message here today, I feel, is that we are not powerless, but we do have a responsibility, and that's to educate ourselves, to become self-governing, to not focus our energy into too many places. We need to organize the mind, come up with a plan, have intentions, focus on self-awareness, emotional honesty, self-accountability, and we can work ourselves out of these traps.
And that is exactly what it is. These are entrapments that are used to manipulate, to distort, and to silence and keep us in that fight, flight, freeze, and fawn response. Because in that isolation and in that where we are, we're in that state, that's the hooks that keeps it tethered to us. So in order, like I said, externally, we are at a position where we are not getting acknowledgement from, mass media and other government avenues, purposely, because, if they were to, come clean, it would cause, chaos. But where we have to hold them accountable is that we're going to use our greatest gift, and our weapon is our voice, in speaking truth and authenticity of what has occurred to us. This is not something that shame has been put upon us. It has been forced upon us, and we shouldn't feel shameful for it. We are simply acknowledging the truth of what has happened to us, and being bold and brave and speaking out about it, being that squeaky wheel. And it's also telling the universe and God too that I'm taking a stand in my divine birthright and the mantle that I was provided at birth. And I am staking claim that no one of this earth or otherwise should rob me of my divine birthright and my voice and being a sovereign being. And this program and these exercises that Jamie has developed is reconnecting you to yourself, your authentic self, and who you are outside of the distortions and distractions and manipulations and the trauma that the experience in itself has invoked on and forced upon us. And I have heard testimony of those who have been doing, the workshops and the exercises of how it is helping them, get clearer sight in their life amongst being targeted and being able to to reclaim their self-worth and self-empowerment and who they are, and truly being able to see the distortions and distractions for what they are, which are the traps.
Yeah, I feel like with all things considered, they're not just going to stop the program. I'm at a loss for words with it, because it really does put the responsibility on us. It doesn't mean that we stop and we keep our mouth shut and we don't keep doing what we're doing, but it also means that we start really taking a good look at what we're dealing with here. This is so much bigger than just this world. You know, there's many perspectives here, and it's not just going to go away. In fact, this is how it's been. Okay, we're just figuring it out and piecing it together. So it's really about a re-education process. This is about claiming neural rights and cognitive sovereignty over your full autonomy, because everything coming up the rear that we know about is doesn't look good. So why would they go ahead and just say, oh, forget it, we made a mistake? I mean, is that even rational to think at this point?
And you know, the cost ramifications of owning up to what they've been done. But you know, as Anna Toledo has said, you know, at minimum, what they need to do is shut this directed energy weapons off from torturing innocent women, men, and children.
Absolutely. But
I think the corporations that are involved with this and the capitalism that accompanies it, you know, they've commingled with others in this great thing where there's this financial driven, you know, the hive mind, building the AI out, the human response, the predictability of the human response. And we know, being experimented on and targeted, that, you know, we're feeding that data collection, that database for this. But what they don't want is for us to go inward, you know, and to heal ourselves. What they want is the buy-in to the manipulations and the distortions, and the isolation and the control. And because the way that it's going in, you know, again, if more and more people do the inner work and get the enlightenment, you know, phase going on and elevating their vibration and growing into higher levels of consciousness, then the light is overtaking this darkness, and it can't persist. So we don't want to give up the fight, but the greatest thing that we can do for the fight and for humanity is to go inward and to start loosening the grips of these hooks that this targeting program tries to force. I almost get like a vision of, okay, we have our authentic, you know, sovereign being, our self, our soul, and it is just glowing and resonating, this brilliant, beautiful, glowing light. And over that is a layer, you know, you want to call it a copy of yourself, but it's that distorted self of all of the entrapments, the doubts, the fears, the trauma, the grief, the insecurities that this program blueprints and designs out your terror as a targeted individual to keep you chained, oppressed, and small. They don't want you to connect, you know, with your higher self, with God, and to understand your true value, worth, and purpose as a sovereign being. This is what it's all about, is those entrapments, the lies and the deceptions. And what's running amok is all of the chaos, which is the distortions and manipulations that are keeping people in the state of fear and recklessness and numbness. A lot of people don't even know that they're being targeted, and subliminally, you know, having, you know, central nervous hijacking. You know, we know we know, and we have sought the answers, and we've done the research, and we've looked and connected and found all of us out here that are going through this. And but they're wanting to keep, the masses, asleep, and so that they can, run out and keep that control and that enslavement over people. I look at it as, I really, every single day, you see how there is mind control and subliminal messaging in everything. You see the ads, they're like perfectly crafted on things that you may have searched for on social media, trying to get your attention to spend money or make you feel, inadequate. Let's say it's something about, for wrinkles or, whatever it is, it's tapping into that inner critic of yourself, trying to lure you in to make a decision that helps, someone make money, right? Same thing on the television. I find more peace when I unplug from the social media and especially
Definitely.
anything news related, because what we want to do is we want to feed our soul with truth and what helps us and aids us in this journey and what we go through on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So, Jamie, going back to that mirror, the house of mirrors, which is a perfect description, in my opinion, of what a targeted individual goes through, because every one of those mirrors is like a distorted lens of, what is being put on us. And again, we have to give the buy-in for it to have power over us. So once we start to chip away and question, is this really something that I resonate with, or is this a distortion? And going through, some of the exercises that Jamie has published, many exercises from the workshops, the 2 workshop series. And what I'm going to do for everyone right now is I'm going to drop that in the chat. You're going to see it replicate a couple of times, where you're going to see it's the Poli-Si Guides Archive, which is a drive that I host on Proton that has all of the past materials that go with the video, because we record the teleconference and then there's an accompanying guide, a PDF for it, and it walks you through those exercises. And it's like it will become your Rosetta Stone. It will become your decoder ring for, triggers and emotional responses, and the sensations that you get, that freeze response that you get. Some of that may be invoked upon us. We could be having just a good, nice, happy moment, and then all of a sudden we're just like feeling sideswiped by anxiety, or fear, and having physical pain and tightening in the stomach. And these exercises teach you what to do in those moments to get to what the root of that, where it's coming from. It gives you that truth. I'm going to post this, and also a link, the Chosen Heroes YouTube page. It also has the videos from the teleconferences. And then again, if for some reason you're having trouble accessing these guides, just send me an email at chosen_heroes@proton.me, or you could email Jamie at quantumrealitystudies@yahoo.com. That is up on the screen in yellow. So, Jamie, you were going to say something? Sorry.
That's okay. So we work through observer intelligence and building present moment self-awareness, because that's the only real reality that there is. Everything else is the illusion, past and future. So I think it's really important to start with observer intelligence, because it gives you the ability to start tracking your patterns and understanding where you're leaking energy. For example, giving too much energy to certain friends who are draining you, certain situations, really learning how to set boundaries within the self. It all really begins with the self, what you're willing to put up with versus not. So, just really tracking your behaviors, noticing, the things that trigger you. When you step into fight, flight, fawn, or freeze.
And what happened right before you had that sensation or feeling? Was it, something that maybe those who have the auditory effect, maybe you heard some loud ringing, maybe you heard some words, or, just diving into it, or maybe it was a thought, maybe it was attached to something that you thought, and then now you're feeling that sensation. It teaches you, these exercises teach you to sit and create a safe space for yourself and sit and feel and connect with your body, and then to start asking yourself questions. And with these questions, then you might get like a picture flash or a memory, or have words that come to you, because what you're doing is you're asking your higher self, yourself that knows everything, right? And it's going to start to reveal to you these keywords or signals to look into. And once you dive into that, you're able to better understand what was going on in that particular moment. Did it tie back to some trauma from a past experience or childhood? Again, these invoking questions are very, very, they're the stages where you enter into your healing and awareness. And it's to do the inner work. I know I stayed very stuck in anger and wanting to fight and to get this to end, and it consumed me. And I kept being told by those that spiritual teachers, wise people, and the church and all of that, about forgiveness and love. And when you're being attacked in such an inhumane way, it's really hard to see through the lens of love and get past that hate and anger. But I will tell you, with being 13 years into this experience, it is a necessity. You get so tired of carrying that anger, resentment, and pain and trauma around. It's like a dam that's about to break, and your body is holding all of this in cellular, in your cells, your tissue, and it's toxic. This pain that comes from this experience, carrying that around, you've got to find a way to push that out, to let the light in, so that you can see tangible differences in measurements and progress in your existence. You are not, your birthright is not you being chained into this horrific experience. I believe that right when I recognized that I was being targeted, I was on a spiritual quest, and wanting to get closer to God and the universe and pursuing that. And I think that also is like a red flag to these type of systems as well, because they need you to stay stuck, and they need you to have that self loathing about aspects of yourself, and your fear and your trauma and your shame and your guilt and all of these things. But when you start to embark upon that, and you start to lighten that and see different perspectives and break out of what has been spoon fed, as a lot of that is programming, and some just never question it. That's because that's the way it's always been. But then you kind of come on an embarking journey of the explorer and questioning everything and seeing it in different ways, and knowing whether or not does this resonate with me as truth or no, and then to keep going on. You never have to accept what is being spun at you. You are your own, navigator and explorer. Jamie, do you want to add in on that and how important?
So with the Poli-Si template, we have a workflow formula that passes everything that we process out, passes through 11 gates, which is present moment self-awareness, emotional honesty, self-accountability, self-acceptance, tolerance, empathy, self-compassion, determination, forgiveness, gratitude, and courage. So we work through those gates for everything, every situation, circumstance, or relationship that you're dealing with. And that wires the neural network to do it automatically, because we think automatically. 90% of what we think we're not even aware of. So this is really about honing in and bringing that 95% up to the conscious mind's awareness, so you really see the bigger picture, because we're not really present. Our mind is constantly in the past. In fact, the conscious mind is trapped between past and future thinking. The subconscious mind is stuck between waking and visionary states, and the unconscious mind is stuck in short and long-term cognitive processing. So that creates a big blur. That's where the veil. But when you start breaking through, so the Poli-Si workflow is an algorithm. It's a healing and deprogramming algorithm for healing and expansion. So every time you stop and you take the time to become present, breathe, talk, it's about opening up the dialogue with yourself, being honest with yourself. How does this make me feel? How can I take more self-accountability for this situation that occurred? And it's really about dropping the defense mechanisms and really seeing things as they are, not how we think they are, because emotions aren't real. They're fleeting and they fluctuate, and they're tied to memories, past experiences, and trauma. So you're not really getting an accurate understanding if you're caught in, I call it polarity, inside of your emotions, inside of a trap. So that, it's really about taking the time, identifying where the holes are in your where you're not thinking clearly, when you disassociate, when you step into rumination. I've been dealing with that for about a month now, because I've done a lot of healing work, and I've brought up a lot of trauma, healed, shut down a lot of this programming, and now the tape just wants to keep playing, and it's exhausting. But I see now that having to build up the nervous system capacity and the self-awareness to be able to even understand what it is that my mind's thinking. So your mind is not yours. Your mind is a program. It was programmed by religious, cultural, and societal programming inside of duality and polarity. So it's a false construct. So what we're doing is we're taking a step back, and we're really looking at all of these things, which can be difficult because, these are little things that we're used to doing that we don't think about, but we're bringing presence in, because with presence, you can then bring in intention, and then you can start guiding your experiences versus having them happen to you. This is a difference between the victim and the victimizer. You step out from underneath the victim role, and you start taking self-accountability. And by taking that accountability, you start feeling lighter and better, and you have more clarity. And it really is, things can be really terrible, but you can still be peaceful. You can still have clarity. That's the anomaly here, everything's terrible, but yet it's fine. But that's the only way we can navigate through this. So then you heal and you clear all this energy that's trapped in your body, and you can't be targeted anymore. So my targeting experiences are more now invasive thoughts, but the directed energy is outside of me now. It's like there's a wall there. I still feel it. I'm still having an experience, because of course my mind is like, holy shit, why is this? I start replaying the tape. but I just calm my mind down. And that's what the tools are. So the only thing we use in this system is breath work, meditation, resonance mapping, and body scans. That's it. We work the mirror protocol and the input output processing through the same template. It's really a very, it's a complex system, but it's very simple. We have everything broken down to like 5 protocols. And it's really about operationalizing consciousness, understanding how it functions in time multidimensionally, how you can take control of your space, your biofield. You can protect yourself. You do that with boundaries, where you're placing your energy, what you're spending your time on, what you're feeding your mind. You know, I feel this is an opportunity. It's an invitation to become better human beings, you know, to really go through our belief systems and realize, because the mind is, the lower mind is programmed inside of duality and polarity. And it's very confusing in duality and polarity, but that's how we've been conditioned to think and believe. So it's really about going through the belief systems and realizing, what is it that I believe? Example, I don't believe, my mindset on problems is we are experiencing solutions as problems in a time delay, and there can be no problem without a solution. The problem is the conscious mind doesn't have the answer, so it throws the nervous system into a tizzy, you know, when it doesn't have an answer or a pathway that it can follow. So you have to learn how to live in that space where you're sort of balancing between worlds. You know, this is the conscious versus the unconscious. The unconscious is controlled by the system. It's a program. You know, it's the lower mind, which feeds off of guilt, fear, shame, anger, resentment, frustration, contempt, sadness, grief. You know, these are things that we teach you how to dismantle. They're the distortions. But then we have our cognitive processing that needs to be upgraded. That's difficult because we have dissonance. We have to work through the dissonance. We have to work through the disassociation, because once the nervous system starts feeling discomfort from a conflicting belief that you have, that you're dealt with, that needs a solution right now, it's going to create a problem for you. You're going to feel like you're suffering. So it's about working the protocols, going through the steps, getting to truthful answers, accepting the answers. And the thing about coherence in this formula, you can get to coherence and it not be the answer that you want, but you're still at peace with it. That's your body indicating that you have arrived at the truth, because you will still feel peaceful and clarity. So I think I've gone off track here, but
no, but I'm glad you bring up a very good point, because this whole experience can make you disassociate, because it's sensory override, right? You are overstimulated, everything is hyper vigilant, and you just shut off and you become kind of numb, because you're just trying to go, you know, to get to the next, you know, A to B of your day, and, you know, have something to show for it. But again, asking these very important questions, and you may not like the answer, but it is the truth. And I myself have dealt with this as well. And you just kind of have to sit with it, and it does give you peace, but at least you know truth when you start to ask, you know, yourself these certain questions. And I always want, you know, it's just human nature, to go into assumption and judgment, and it's our own distortion, which I think that is where the predatory aspect of these programs are, because it's living and dwelling in that, like Jamie said, that lower mind programming of all of that low vibration thought, fear, shame, guilt. And I can tell you, you know, being someone who has the auditory effect with the shaming words, I mean, they're going to use any insecurity to throw it at you. And so the way that I started to flip the script on it, because I'm like thinking to myself, how dare somebody try to beat me up with my own garbage? You know, I'm like, I'm like, no, you will not beat me up with my own garbage. So, I mean, even when my mother was alive and she, had some targeting as a result of my targeting, right? God bless her and rest her soul. She really understood what I was going through because they did, it to her as well. But they were even trying to threaten me. This is the auditory mess about, oh, I'm going to tell your mother XYZ. And I'm like, so you know what I did? Because this is the style that I felt had to become of this. You have to kiss your fear on the mouth. So you just walked right on in there, and I'm like, they're threatening to tell you XYZ, and she's like, well, you shouldn't have done that. And I'm like, yeah, I know, I get that, but they're not going to use that as leverage over me, to manipulate me and get me to do something that is going to harm me, like, oh, write a letter and send it to the CEO of the company that started all of this targeting experience on you and say that it was all in your head. I don't think so. Not going to fall for that. So we really have to tap into the discernment of the lie and the traps that, especially for those who have auditory effect. Don't believe that mess, okay? Don't do anything that is going to harm yourself or make you look like you're unstable, or to get you that label and to, classify you. Even if you have fallen for it, just know that don't do it, because we all can fall for it. But going back to it is, that's where you start to liberate yourself is, oh my gosh, these programs and these low-level handlers that are behind some of the interactive pieces of it. And then you've got the AI stuff with it as well. But you've got to debunk that and shatter that, because that's how you loosen it off of you. And then in the process of it is, you know what? We are not, no one can be perfect. We're all going to have, body flaws. And yeah, we could be, a little bit more patient and do things a little bit more differently. But I am not going to let some program designed to keep me stuck in that. I'm just going to recognize myself as human and embrace, the unlovable parts of myself, which is also known as doing the shadow work. And these techniques help you embrace that, and you're integrating all parts of yourself and your whole. Because I've said before, some of those undesirable parts is what has kept you alive and getting up the next day. So you have to embrace them and love them as well. And all of that is part of who you are, because then it dismantles the power of what they're trying to use over your head to manipulate.
Yeah. I think the best thing for targeted survivors to get organized in their mind is to get a journal and really map out all of the things that, whether it be auditory and all the situations that they deal with on a daily basis, and then just start moving into those things one by one. So for example, I've been working with a TI who I've become very close with. I consider her a very good friend. She deals with the auditory, and then she's got neighbors harassing her through the walls and the backyard, and she's got, it's a mess. But anyway, I asked her to map out how much time she spends allowing them to steal her energy throughout the day. So when she starts talking about it, she'll reference like 20 things, and that's what the mind does. It starts, as soon as one thing hits, the next thing you know, the mind starts thinking in layers and then pulling in all of these other things. And then next thing you know, the nervous system's constricting, and then you're buried below all of these emotions. And if you don't know how to process those emotions out, you're going to get sick. That is going to kill you quicker than this program, is keeping that that those emotions trapped in there and not releasing them. They have to be processed out. It's trauma. So really taking the time, investing in yourself, becoming self-governing, finding out where the leaks are, how much time you're spending, and then challenging. I'm asking her to challenge these things now. So for example, this one conversation that she has, that this lady is telling her and all of these terrible things, you know, put all of those things in the journal and then sit with each one and then start auto correcting. No, I'm in charge of my mind. You don't tell me that this is going to happen. I am in charge. Start flipping the script onto them, but it happens through healing, you know, and you know, not coming from the attack perspective, from hatred. It has to be like, no, this is not going to happen. You have to become sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then you take control of it, and then you heal it, you release it, and it goes away. Does it take time? Yes. You might have to exercise 3 or 4 times with one scenario, but you'll see each time will get easier and easier, and then it drops off. It's just like an addiction. You know, if you address the underlying root cause, there's nothing, it goes away. You know, it's not, it has nowhere to go. The energy is transformed. It turns into something else, and you become, you advance, you know, you move away, and then you know what, the next thing will happen, and then you work the process through that. But it's really about organizing the mind, creating a safe space for you to think and process information, having a plan, having an intention, and basically showing up in alignment with your intentions and plan. So,
and I know some people might think and say that, well, how can I create a safe space for me when I have all of this chaos that is going on around me? Those that have the auditory effect, and because you know, those who have the auditory effect can relate with what I'm saying here, because anytime that you try to sometimes pray or meditate, or you're trying to, you know, do something for yourself that is good for yourself, or maybe something happened and it unnerved you and it created some stress in you. It's like vultures circulating on you at that moment. But I have to tell you, you have to work at that. You cannot. And it needs to be, you have to affirm it and declare it every single day that you're not going to let the distractions interfere and to pause you. And you got to feel it within you that you are chasing that like nothing more that you've ever chased before, that you are going to create that space for yourself to take care of yourself, because you have to do so.
well, the number one thing is breath. That's the first thing you should do, is stop for a moment, pause, and breathe, because the breath anchors you into the present moment. After you get your breath, it slows down the amygdala. Otherwise, you're hijacked. You're already in a trigger. It's too late. Now you have to work out of the trap. So instead of becoming trapped, that's what we're doing. We already know these things are happening. They're going to keep happening. They're not going to stop. So we have to take control and make it stop. The only way you can make it stop is to sit down, work through it, process it out, breathe. And really, so I've been having a lot of auditory the past month, well, rumination, auditory, whatever. I get pictures. I have been nonstop with affirmations because it's almost like I have to keep my mind occupied on something. So, you know, you bob and weave. What do I need today? I need, you know, to go into meditation and quiet my mind for an hour. I need to go out for a walk. Taking the time that you need, but it's not going to go away by fighting the mirror. Basically, you're being returned with the energy that you're sending out. What you project out is returned to you. So if you send out a signal of self-governing and you're seeking coherence, you flip the mirror, send the energy back, and then you're elevated to be able to do the work. But you're going to have to push through to get to that space. And it is hard. It absolutely is hard. Sometimes it feels like it's impossible, but you have to do it. I know that if I can't do anything, I can think, and I can gain control of my mind. I am safe, I am loved, I am supported in the ever-present now moment. I intend with consent and authority to have clear and articulate thoughts. My thoughts are mine, nobody else's. Get out of my space. And sometimes I just sit there and I flip the mirror and I say right back at you, because I don't have time for this crap right now. And sometimes I do. And I'll sit down and it's like you're sending a directed energy attack back, but you're not doing it in hatred. You're doing it to protect yourself.
Right.
This is energy. It's energy we're dealing with. You can direct it and send it everywhere you want, but you have to learn how to harness it and direct it properly. And self-governing, active learning, defending and responding, and becoming self-aware. How do I feel right now? Where is this energy stored in my body? What are the symptoms here? Start journaling. Really, this is about tracking and tracing your nervous system responses, because that's how they're controlling you. But you're allowing it because they're your thoughts. You have to become governing. You have to be able to direct your thoughts to where they need to go. It took me years to do this. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's definitely possible. And I say to people all the time, if I can figure it out, anybody can figure it out, because I had very little intelligence when I started this journey and zero emotional intelligence. I was a mess. I didn't even know how to feel, so it took me a lot of time and patience to work through everything, but you can find peace. You absolutely can.
Yes, and by doing the inner work journey, which I think that I saw in the comments, someone said that they accredited this experience to their awakening. I think everyone can relate to that. It kind of peels back, the falsitude of what we were led to believe up to that moment, that, oh yeah, if we talk to the police or go to the FBI or whatever, and we report this harassment, that they will, do what they're supposed to do and make that go away. Well, then you find out that no, they're not going to help you. They're colluding, and it's like a network, and everywhere that you turn to try to get assistance and to be heard and have that connection, you're just, you run into another wall. I think that is where that critical moment. So everyone that is tuned in, you have gone through the absolute worst, which is that initial phase of going, what in the world is going on here? And nobody will pay attention to me. My whole world has exploded, and friends and family don't believe me. They think there's something wrong with me, and I'm only telling the truth. I'm only telling the truth. So that's something that it helps me center, is I look back from the very first, from that time period where it all began, and I see that where I am right now, and I'm still standing. That is reassuring yourself of what you're capable of, with, that tenacity and that drive. You have to chase this healing, like nothing else, because you just cannot. I refuse to let it win. I just refuse to let it win. I'm just like,
Yeah.
And then you get creative. You're like, okay, here I go. I'm getting myself into a tailspin. And what helped me the most was to stop engaging with it. Because, that story of the two dragons, the one that you feed is the one that survives. And, are you going to feed the dragon that is for your healing and for your good, or the one that is trying to kill you and manipulate and deceive you and to try to make you perish? You don't want to give that dragon the food, right? Feed the dragon that is for your good. So that's what we have to do. Just, even though the directed energy, yes, it's really hard, but I just go into my counter moves on that to break it up, to get myself in a centered space, and just keep going. The drive that you have to just not succumb to it. I know sometimes you just do have to sit down, and it can be rather intense, and I'm not trying to diminish it, but these are the things that we can do to win for ourselves.
Developing a plan, sticking to it, working through it, working through the wax on, wax off phase. That's where we've been. We started this in March, and really we're still waxing on and waxing off. We're developing the cognitive processes to be able to work through all the levels of the mind. So we're basically organizing spiritually at the soul level, which is where we need to be, because the soul provides safe transport for all of this. You are divinely guided in this system because you're coming from a neutral space. We just want what the highest good is for the evolution of humanity. We're not trying to feed into any of their systems any longer. This is about self-governance, because really that comes to the next point of all of this. I feel that it's, taking people into new directions, building new systems. I don't want to be part of this system, a system that attacks people. I mean, come on, like, really? I don't want to do this anymore. So I'm looking for ways out. But if we can't do that when we're buried in complexity, uncertainty, and vulnerability, because we become powerless. So we have to take back our minds, our brain, claim our sovereignty, and move forward from that space. And this is the only way we can do this. I'm not saying there aren't other systems out there that provide this. I have no idea, but I know that it works. It provides.
And what is really good about the guides, the documented guides, like there's two series, there's counterterrorism and counterintelligence workshop, which you can access the guides, link that I posted, and you can watch the video. So in each guide, you can sit at your own pace and just work through that meditation, all right there for you. You don't have to come up with steps yourself. Sometimes people can, feel a little overwhelmed and not understand how to create that safe space for meditating and to begin the process, work the exercises. But it's all laid out for you, and it is explained so well. It's an amazing job of explaining it, even giving keywords that you can look up as a decoder and to help you through the processes. I strongly suggest that you take the time and go through some of them. And it may seem hard and a little overwhelming because we're trying to tap into doing the inner healing is kind of scary. That saying, the devil that you know, but at least you know that, right? But now when you're stepping into uncharted territory, the territory that is going to lead you into relief and trauma and healing, understanding your patterns and your triggers, then that is very foreign, but that's the path. The narrowest path is the one that is the most rewarding, right? And this is doing that soul work, because again, they're trying to trap you with all of the garbage that they can use against you, right? And you have to get garbage to live yourself and to free up space so that more light can come into your life, and so that you can learn new ways of being. And one of the there's many traps, of course, fear and poverty and the anxiety and shame manipulation, those are very major, where there's many that it's hard to get past. But if you can start chipping away at them, then you will see progress. Do you have some advice for someone who's maybe just kind of stuck in the fear and entrapped that fear?
Okay, so you kind of weaved in and out. I didn't hear, but I think you were asking about any suggestions for fear.
Yes.
Okay, so the number one and the most effective is just facing it. As soon as you face it, it slows down. You start breathing, you face the fear, you start asking questions. How can I bring more self-awareness into this fear? How can I bring more emotional honesty? And then you just start naming it. Well, I feel crazy right now. I feel like I want to die. I don't think I can handle this. Okay, well, that's what you think. Well, and then you move down to self-accountability. And then once you start taking self-accountability for, how you may have contributed to something, the pressure comes off. And then you can start breathing. And then the mind starts opening up and then starts offering new pathways to be able to, move in this direction or that direction in the way of a solution. So it's really about self-governing, opening up that inner dialogue, keeping that dialogue on point. So for example, when I go into the negative and, doom and gloom, it can't be fixed, give up, just surrender, then I counter that. Well, you felt this way many times. You always find your renewed strength. Look how far you've come. So you start having the conversation with yourself, because once you define something and say that it's this or that, that's the trap. You can't move from there. You put yourself in a box. If you say this is hopeless and this is never going to go away, then you're right. If you think, okay, this is difficult and challenging, but I know that I can do it, then you can do it. It's really just about making decisions and sticking to the decisions and then working through the distortion, and, you might have to put on affirmations. You might have to listen to frequency. You may have to go out and take a walk or meditate, sit down and feel the energy and let it move through you. But you always find renewed strength, always. It's a guarantee. It will never not come through, because you're sending signals. You get the return signal of what you send out. So if you're sending out fear and you get trapped there and you start ruminating on all the little things that are connected to it, well, that's where you're going to stay. But if you stop and you breathe, you start trying to process it out, make a little bit of sense, find yourself compassion, your self-love. You don't beat yourself up. Once you start tearing yourself down, tearing others down, you're in that negative structure. That's right where they want you to be. They're sucking your energy out of you. So instead, you take that power away. You have to become your own best friend, basically, and know how to talk to yourself like you would talk to your best friend, and the advice that you would give them. This is temporary. I've already survived 100% of my negative experiences. This is no different. I just don't know what the solution is. It makes me very uncomfortable not to know what it is, but I have faith and I trust the process, because the process will lead you to a solution. The solution led me here to this blueprint. It went dark for many years. I was working through the processes, but I was going through the processes because I was learning how to develop them and be able to articulate them, because there's a difference between understanding something intellectually versus embodying it. And that's what we need to do, is embody this, embody the brain and nervous system understanding, and how all of this affects us, how we can take control of our mind. And, that our mind isn't our thoughts aren't our thoughts. They're coming in from all different directions. They're attached to frequencies, and shadow aspects that are pulling the strings. So when you connect in deeper to, understand, how do I react when I am in fear? Well, understanding the fight, flight, fawn, freeze. What's my typical response when I'm in fight? What do I do when I'm in fawn, freeze? I know for me, I figured out my freeze was attached to humiliation, and that was the first string I pulled out. And once I realized the humiliation, then it had connected and branched out to so many different aspects of my life. So there was like many shadow aspects attached to one specific experience that I had that created humiliation, which made me freeze whenever I come up to a situation where I feel humiliated or I feel that I'm being taken advantage of. I sort of freeze and I can't do anything. So I've had to work myself out of those traps, because the goal is to be able to speak your truth clearly, accurately, without any guilt, fear, shame, resentment, or blame. You just speak the truth because it's your authentic truth. And if you speak it through coherence, you're good to go.
That was great. I know that the audio is a problem on my end. Not sure what is going on there. Jamie, can you read the declaration? My mic is having issues.
You want me to read it? Okay, let me see if I can pull it up here.
I'm going to try to do a different microphone and see if that helps.
What's it titled? What's
The declaration. Jamie, can you hear me?
declaration of what?
It's a declaration. Can you hear me?
You keep cutting out.
Okay. Oh. Is that any better?
Are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound good now. I cannot find it.
Okay. If I'm still sounding okay?
Yes.
Okay. Let me go ahead and read it again, everybody. This is available for download, and I'll put the link out again. And again, you can always email me at chosen_heroes@proton.me. So this is the declaration of, I'm going to put this up here. I'll put it on the screen. The Declaration of Self-Governance, Cognitive Sovereignty, and Divine Reclamation. By the eternal authority, and this is what you would say to yourself. I'm going to insert my name, but you would insert your name when you read this aloud to yourself. By the eternal authority of the living source and the inherent power of my conscious will, I, Melissa Miller, a self-aware and sovereign being, declare my unalienable right to self-governance and cognitive autonomy. I proclaim revocation of illegitimate authority. I nullify and revoke all contracts, statutes, and obligations, whether political, legal, energetic, or cognitive, imposed upon me without my explicit, informed, involuntary consent. No system, institution, or entity may claim authority over my body, mind, soul, or cognitive processes through coercion, deception, or assumed jurisdiction. So the assertion of cognitive sovereignty. I declare absolute sovereignty over my cognitive rights, including my thoughts, beliefs, perceptions, and mental processes. My mind is a sacred domain, free from manipulation, external programming, and technological intrusion. No entity, human, artificial, or system, may influence, monitor, or control my consciousness without my consent. Reclamation of self-governance. I am a self-governing entity, accountable only to the principle of truth, justice, and the natural law of my divine essence. My body, mind, brain, and soul are my inviolable dominion, and I reject any claim of ownership or control by external systems, whether governmental, corporate, technical, or ideological. Dissolution of false systems. I sever all ties to political, social, economic, and technological constructs that rely on manipulation, potency, or exploitation to bind individuals. Any system that violates transparency, equity, or the sovereignty of my body, mind, or cognitive faculties is hereby declared null and void in relation to my being. And they return to divine blueprint. I reclaim my original divine essence, restoring my body, mind, and conscience to the pristine state of purity and alignment with the living source. I reject the fiction of corporate identity, legal construct, or cognitive manipulation that seek to reduce my living essence to an instrument of control. Commitment to authentic governance. As a self-governing, cognitive, sovereign being, I pledge to act in alignment with truth, integrity, and the collective good, fostering a system of mutual respect and transparency. My political, personal, and cognitive actions reflect my sovereignty, guided by reason, compassion, and the eternal wisdom of the source. This declaration is my sovereign act, rooted in the unassailable truth of my existence as a free, conscious, and self-determined being. It is binding in the eternal now, witnessed by the living source, and affirmed by my wisdom. So it is, and so shall be. Melissa Miller. I mean, this is just amazing. I thank you for writing this. It's a great way for us to remember our rights, our cognitive rights, and our bio.
Yeah, I would read it every day. I read it. I go through spurts where, I'll read this every day and I'll read that. But it definitely helps. It empowers you.
It does. And you have graciously always did a free 1 hour telephone with targeted survivors that would like to learn more and have questions and want to work through the Poli-Si process. So I have, if you're interested, you're attending, watching this later on, you can reach out to Jamie directly at quantumgalaxystudies@yahoo.com.
Yeah, I'm happy to take calls. They need to be organized, though. We talk about Poli-Si and the processes and how to process out information, how to process out your journey. It's not a call to tell me all of your problems. I already know I have the same problems. These are calls to work through the problems.
And much appreciated to offer that to people. I know that there have been times I've had to call you and you had to walk me through some things, challenges that I was going through. And I want to remind you that Jamie has multiple social media accounts where she is constantly publishing information that is so enlightening and encouraging, motivating. She's available at Substack and Facebook. I put the screen social media pages there along with the hyperlinks for everyone to refer back to. The next that we're having, the counterterrorism teleconference is on October 11th at 1 p.m. Central Eastern. That would be 11 a.m. Pacific time. And it's even if you're outside of the United States, hosted by a free conference call. If you want to be on the mailing, please email me at chosen_heroes.me. I'm going to put my email address in the chat also. All right, I want to touch on any other topics today, Jamie, or want to go to the chat and have questions?
Whatever you want to do. You kind of broke out. Are you saying, what did you say?
I'm sorry, I'm having so many challenges. Last week I got cut off. This week it's my microphone, so sorry. I said let's go to the chat. I'm gonna go to the chat. And let me just try to do what I did a while ago and see. Is that any better?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm still hearing back on my end. But well, if it sounds okay, then still good?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Let's go to the chat. All right. Hi, everyone. Anyone? Hi, Rahul. I see that you want to connect with other targeted individuals. Anyone on the chat would like to communicate with Rahul, please reach out to the chat. And like her, she said, or he says, this pain always temporary. Yes, it's just like know that we're going through another round of it, and we have to kind of work through our processes. There's a saying, it was from a movie, The Crow. Actually, it doesn't rain it can't rain all the time, right? So you know, you just have to motivate yourself. You know, one thing that I say is, you know, even though the masses and the government entities do not acknowledge what we are going through, I recognize that I am powerful and I am capable of navigating through this effectively. These are the types of things that we really have to build ourselves up with when we are, you know, through the gauntlet. Seth states, tell yourself okay if life is difficult. Talking to people because we are being tortured. We can't be too hard on us. Absolutely. We have to give ourselves a break. Jamie, would you like to comment?
I didn't hear. I was I'm sorry. I didn't really hear everything you said.
I apologize. Let me try. Any better?
I guess we'll just have to see.
How is
What was
that? Okay, how is that?
Okay, I think so.
Okay, well, I apologize for this.
Don't apologize.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yes. Well, Jamie, I don't know if you the chats and you can answer some of the questions if you see them on your end. If you're on your phone, you cannot.
I can't see them.
Do you have some advice for intrusive thoughts?
Well, it really depends on where that goes back to the sitting down and mapping things out. You know, what's a reoccurring thought? Why does this keep coming up? Keeping a log and a journal. I do many things. Sometimes I challenge it. Sometimes I usually say things like if I hear you're going to be die poor, you're going to be living in your car, I'll say maybe, maybe not. I guess we'll just have to see. You know, it just depends. Sometimes I'll cuss at them. Sometimes, you know, I'll school them and explain to them, you know, they probably get tired of hearing from me because I also hear that too. You talk too much. You never shut up. Because I'm basically looking for data, scanning constantly, recoding things that come in and sending it back out the way that I see it. You know, I don't allow them to, or anything to tell me something other than what I know is for me.
That is good. What about when you're in a moment?
So recently, I've been all last week. So for example, I was hearing start spoofing them. And I said, okay, so I'll go, like if I go to the grocery store, I will open the door and envision that I'm walking into my house. And then I walk around the store, but I'm envisioning myself. I like bilocate into multiple different, when I feel like I'm being pressured, I'll all of a sudden bilocate into my grandmother's backyard at the swing set. I'll go to a house I used to live in, and then I'll go to another house. So I play all kinds of games to keep my mind active and, you know, challenging things, constantly changing my frequency, talking about how my experience, if it's really grueling, I really, you know, I reflect on with honesty. I tell the truth. I don't like this. I feel like I'm dying. You know, this is very scary. What's going to happen? I'm afraid for the future. Like I bring all of that. It's like laying down your truth. I mean, these are valid fears. Am I actively creating them? No, I'm bringing them to the forefront of my mind so I can process it out. And I pretty much bring up my fear every day. Now I've mapped it out over many years. I know what they are. So I really just call it in every day and I sit with it. And in the beginning, it was like almost impossible to sit with it because it was so triggering. But as I've healed trauma over the years, you know, I see it, I feel it, but I don't let it consume me. You know, sometimes I am consumed. You know, but I work through it. I just, I cryptograph my mind. What it means to me is one thing. It might not mean it to anybody else, but I know what it means for me. I know what my 0-point baseline calm is. I know how to get there. And I know that if I'm not there, it's because there's a distortion within me. I'm not seeing something correctly. You know, I'm mislabeling it. I'm going down the wrong path. Sometimes we spend way too much time thinking about things that have absolutely no value to us. And I feel like that's one of the things that has been coming in for me is the rumination. And it's ruminating on things that are like a decade ago. I'm like, that's in the past. Like I shut it down. You know, I just decide. I mean, I decide, is this me or is this some external force? And, you know, I make decisions, but that's part of the process that we help you create is how to cryptograph your own mind, how to make decisions, how to think You know, what's my stance on this? What's my stance on that? And locking it in, coding it into your system, you know, so you handle it the same exact way. I handle all my problems the same exact way. I don't change anything. Okay. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yes, yes. Are you getting the feedback now? It sounds like it's always sorted on my end.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. That was a cool. What about when like they're dissociating, that they're on overload and shutting down?
Okay, so dissociation is hard to detect, but once you start tracking your patterns and you start seeing how you act and react in certain situations or around certain people, you'll see it. I mean, basically, if you want to do a task, you'll see it. It's like comes through as procrastination, so to speak. You know, you'll see that you were working on this and all of a sudden you're outside digging a hole and you're like, what happened here? Well, I disassociated. I didn't want to do that. So it's really connecting with yourself. So for me, it's more so the things that I don't enjoy doing. I've kind of gone through all the disassociation with my cognitive processes and my trauma. So I know it's not that, because I'm very much on point. But for me, it's just, you know, I find it very cumbersome to be living this existence the way it is. You know, so I kind of get caught in those traps of the ho-hum doldrums, you know. That's what it is for me. So I'll disassociate with that because I'm not happy. You know, it isn't what I thought it was going to be. But I work through it and then I get the renewed strength. But I find I disassociate a lot when I don't want to do something. It's recognizing it. And I cut myself some slack because of where I am. But in the past, I would make myself sit with it. Why am I disassociating? What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of losing? I know I was broke for so many years. Like I didn't even realize I had PTSD when I'd go to the grocery store, like every time having to spend money that I didn't have. So that was sort of, I take it as a form of disassociation because I'm stepping into an energy that is just, it's like disassociation times 10. It makes you, doesn't even feel like you're in your body. It's like you're, it's very scary. But I would say that's how I disassociate, but I don't do that anymore. I sit with it. You're in a trigger. This is because of years your nervous system was wired because you were broke. You know, this is not how it is anymore. You know, the whole pep talk thing. And
I think it's like very important to and just recognize it is a pattern and to see where it's coming from. When I have a emotional response, I'm like going, okay, what am I of? Because usually it will come with negative dialogue to, you know, self-doubt, self-criticism, and I'm like, no, you have to just put yourself back out of that and calm down. It will take you down. And
so dissonance is easy to tell because your mind can't have two conflicting beliefs simultaneously. So if you feel one way about something, but you're acting another way, or if you're not happy that things, anyway, it's easy to tell because there will be an inner conflict. So that's a very easy way to tell. Disassociation gets a little hard, but then you work your way up through the process, you know, and you start recognizing dissonance, then it's easier to recognize disassociation. And then rumination is very easy because it's the constant reoccurring loops that are coming in. They're rumination loops where the observer gets stuck in a trap. But these are all processes that you come to. They're like levels. So Once you start recognizing things, then you can start making the proper steps to mitigate it.
Yes, and I think, like you said, are very important, trying to help, anchor and get you out of the negative loop. I think it was said that everything is working out for my highest good. That was one that she said a lot. But these are the internal that you give yourself, and they really do make a difference.
So
Because
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So the disassociation is tied to suppression and repression blocks. So you'll start, when you work with the nervous system and you start realizing your triggers, and then you start realizing that, is this something that I've been pushing away because I don't want to face it, or am I being suppressed from external systems? So once you start kind of doing that, and then you start seeing some of the other different patterns that we step into, like undoing patterns, like maybe you attack somebody, argue with them, and then you go back and you start to be really nice. Or when you, busy yourself all the time and don't really stop and focus, where you try to keep yourself busy. There's all kinds of defense mechanisms, which we have in the PDFs. It's from very early on, one of the first few counterterrorism workshops. They're all noted in there, all the different defense mechanisms. It's really about education, doing a lot of reading, and once you start defining words and making sense, and then you can start matching your patterns with the words, and then you start learning psychology, and you're like, wow, everything starts to make sense. But we streamlined everything because we can tell you what the blocks are. So we know what we're looking for. We're not shooting in the dark. We're not looking for a needle in a haystack. We know what we need to do at this point. We know how to operationalize consciousness. We know how to get this job done. We just need people to realize what needs to be done, because this is tough work. It's just like brain surgery. It needs to be handled just like brain surgery. It's a delicate process, and it's a journey. It's not a destination. And one of the things we have to do is we have to get outside of the all or nothing thinking. My life is not going to be okay until this happens, or I can't do this until I get a good job, or I do this. No, right now is the only real reality that there is. Right now sets the stage for your next experience. But if we keep recycling through these trauma triggers, we are programming our subconscious mind to keep having these experiences. So we have to really get in there and figure out, when do I do this? Why do I do this? Who are the people in my life that are causing this rift within me? It's about setting boundaries. A lot of people that we're surrounded by are our triggers. We just don't have very good communication skills. So that's the part that is tough to swallow, because when you start setting boundaries, you might have to get some people out of your life. They no longer are compatible with your frequency.
Absolutely. I've had to, have to do that. You have to, at some point, if you're giving out and getting back, you've got to assess it. Honestly assess it. And you cannot feel guilt or shame about wanting to take care of yourself. And you're very valuable. You're under constant attack. You have to be mindful who be out and not balance. Then you need to maybe take a break, step back. Put that boundary there, your truth to the individual. If they don't believe it, then so be it. Because you have to take care of yourself. And one thing I mention is, I think I found very helpful, is every day I make sure that I have time to connect, pray, And I you know, any blocks or hindrances or agendas that are my body, my bio are nullified, and those obstacles are moved. And the other thing that you do in your life and yourself too is that you are a code breaker. You are a code breaker. The needs broken off of you. That you ask you and God to intervene and to show me, give me guidance how I can, you know, remove toxic cycles or patterns that I am aware of and I am not aware of, and just see what comes to mind. Because what you're doing is laying a pathway for you to take action by what you receive, and using the exercises also is going to be the thing to help you work through those in the moment occurrences that are coming up for you. This is how we can and claim ourselves, our sovereignty, our divine birthright. We cannot forget that, you know, this for us to be aggressive control chains in a targeting program is not our divine birthright. But we can have what you're used as a catalyst for at that soul level, because that they have no power if we reclaim our.
So you're breaking up, Melissa. So I think we should probably.
Yeah, again, it comes with the territory. We're trying to do a podcast. But can we take one more comment? I'm going to put one up, and can you respond to one?
Sure. Can you read it to me?
Most are not far enough to understand this journey.
I agree with that. But we can't, we have to keep trying. You know, I was told many years ago, Jamie, you're going 10 blocks ahead. You're waiting for people to show up. You're right on time. You don't need to stress. You don't need to worry. It gets me I go through very upsetting periods where, you know, I look at the collective and I see what's happening, and, you know, it's part of what needs to be healed within us. But you just keep showing up anyway. You know, in the meantime, between time, this is what needs to be done. It doesn't mean, you know, people are getting smarter. It's slow, but I mean, look where we were 4 years or in 2020. You know, look how many people, I mean, we're nowhere near where we need to be, but it's definitely, there's a lot of mouthpieces out there now speaking out. So I just try to keep it in perspective. And just focus on what I can do, not what I can't do and what I think I see. Because we don't know, you know, who knows if this is just an individual journey and each person gets to their destination and you're graded based on your individual, you know, I don't know, just making stuff up, but we don't know. But we have to show up and do the right thing anyway, regardless. But I agree with that statement. And I wish it wasn't true.
I as well. Can you hear me? My mic going?
Yes.
Okay. The thing that I know that many aren't, but you have to look by just having this podcast discussing these things, and somebody is viewed it and it's stored within them. And at that time, where I think you in the targeting journey, there has to be a time where you've had enough, and you're not going to accept the what is being done. So then that's where the torch goes off within yourself, going, well, I have power to choose how I respond to what is being done to me. And if they're trying to bait me with my own trauma, grief, and suffering, then I gotta get my the skeletons in my closet and start getting them out of there, right? So that's the way that I look at it. And I think it comes a time you've gone through it so much often that you're just done. It's time to do the inner work, and it's hard. It's scary to start dealing with that stuff, but that's where they have power over you in that trauma and suffering.
Yeah.
Well, Jamie, I really appreciate you joining in again. If you have questions for Jamie, reach out at realitystudies@yahoo.com. Take her up on her offer. If you're serious about doing work and you want to, schedule a session with you,
Yeah, and it's free. There's no charge. It's not a. This is no money maker here.
Well,
we don't work with money.
Yes, we understand that within our community the financial constraints. So, God, for sharing to help, the target community, humanity, and people, because things the way right now, everyone can use the exercises that you've come up with. You got to feed your soul with information that matters, whether it be, I'm constantly, when I go to bed, I am watching YouTube videos about psychology and all of these things to fortify my mind, the awareness. I've said before, I read books on psychology, the predators, mob stalking, and gaslighting. That's what this really is about, and you have to understand and be able to identify it. And then that they're using your own stuff to manipulate you. You're in a battle with yourself. And so in order to loosen the grip of what the program has, you've got to do inner work. So again, thank you so much, Jamie. I appreciate you joining us today, and thank you everyone tuning in, and thank you for hanging there while I have the issues with the microphone and everything. But again, reach out. The guides are available. And thanks again. And see you next Sunday. And thank you so much, Jamie, for joining.
All right, guys. I love you. Have an amazing night.
All right. Thank you, everyone. God bless.